Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for joining me this evening. My name is Krisell Valenzuela, and I am a multidimensional medium, and I empower femmes of color and their allies to live with confidence, purpose, and integrity through grounded spirituality. If you're joining me today, we are going to get into some psychic readings for today's demonstration. And I'm going to let a few people roll in. I'm going to share a story, and I'm going to share a little bit more with you on top of that story. So this morning I went, Thursdays are the days that I usually have to myself, and my family, they help take care of my kids so that I can have this day to myself. And so this morning I went for a hike. Through a neighborhood out here in West Covina. And it's a private neighborhood, it's an affluent neighborhood, and they have a private security guard that patrols the neighborhood because they have this hiking trail in the middle of their neighborhood, and a lot of people like to use it. So the security guard stops by while I'm walking, and she says, hi, just checking in on you. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And then she doesn't leave. So I'm like, does she want something? Do I look like I'm struggling because I'm walking uphill? And I'm like, are you trying to give me a ride to my car? Like, what's happening right now? But then she says, oh, my friend wants to sing a song for you. So I'm like, okay, sing a song. All right. And she's like fiddling, and I'm like, maybe she has a friend on the phone and her friend wants to sing a song through the speaker or whatever. So I see her fiddling, and then she kind of like raises it up, and she has this Santa plushie, and the Santa plays a very like Kenny G holiday version song on a saxophone, and it's really cute and it's really funny. So I'm like, oh, ha ha ha, you're so funny. And then she goes, well, what do you do? Because I'm like hiking in the middle of the day, and I tell her I'm a psychic. And so we have this conversation. She's like super fascinated that I'm a psychic. And we end up talking about, she asked me, like, how did I know that I had this gift? So that's what I really want to talk about today, because I just had a conversation. Like, I'm in a co-working office. So there are lots of different businesses where my office is. And our community director put on a wine and cheese event. And I was just talking to someone, one of my neighbors here, letting them know how I am a psychic. And she asked the same question. She's like, how did you know that you were a medium? And I think it's really interesting because I view psychic abilities and mediumship and energy sensitivity as an innate ability. It's something you're born with, it's something everyone is born with. It does not discriminate, it's available to everyone. And I really want to talk about that today before we get into readings. And I feel like that's a lot of what the readings will revolve around, because it just keeps on coming up in my life. And that's one of the things that's so important to me, is that people feel empowered to have a conscious, intentional relationship with their psychic abilities, because it's just a part of living. Like, you wouldn't say I have the ability of sight. Like, everyone can see, um, unless of course you're blind, but everyone is born with the ability to see. You have the ability to hear, and you don't just focus on just one of your senses. Like, you just let all of the senses do their job, and you pick up what you need to pick up from whichever sense there is. So if you're just joining, I'd love it if you drop me a comment, let me know that you're here, say hi, let me know where you are joining from. I am broadcasting to you live from Kizh territory, which is also known as Los Angeles County or the San Gabriel Valley. If you've ever watched My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, the city that it takes place in, West Covina, that is exactly where I'm at. I live next to that center in the opening scene. Hi, Linda. Thanks so much for joining. And I think it's Lem, L-E-M, 12662. Thanks so much for being here. And what I'd really love to hear from you too is if you've ever had a supernatural or paranormal experience, if you've ever had a psychic experience or an encounter with spirits, and I'd really love to talk about that before we jump into some readings. So if you feel called to share, know that you're contributing to the healing vibe here as we shift our beliefs on this. So something that, well, first off, if you're new to me, then you don't know my story. And I did not grow up with supernatural or paranormal experiences. And I was on a podcast that's sort of like a spooky story podcast. And I remember going on the interview and feeling like, I don't know if I'm your ideal guest because I've never had a paranormal or supernatural experience, and I've never viewed it as something spooky. So when people ask me if I believe that psychic abilities are something you learn or something that you are born with, my response is both, both, because we're all born with it and it's something that you can develop. So my story is I was going through a bout of depression, and I knew from a friend that had done a psychic development course that psychic development is about meditation, grounding, and raising your vibration. So at the time, this was 2018, I remember Googling it, not finding any extensive information on it, but for the most part, getting that these are all things that make you feel good, that these are pretty much self-care practices. So in an effort to heal and find a right relationship with my depression and my emotions and what I was feeling, I signed up for a psychic development one day workshop with the goal of learning how to meditate. At the time, I think I was using Headspace, the app, and felt like, I don't know if I'm doing this meditation thing right. Yeah. So then hey, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for joining. And hi, Alexandra. And, oh, you saw a huge shadow the other day and it was your best friend saying hi. That's beautiful. So my sister lives in Seattle. I go there at least once a year. And eventually I plan on doing like a tour of like a residency in a different city where I might do like a group reading for a day or private readings to be hashed out later. So thanks so much for joining from Seattle because I could be in your neighborhood soon. So anyways, I went to this one-day workshop to learn how to meditate because I didn't feel like I was doing it right. So I went to the workshop, learned meditation, learned energetic boundaries and maintenance, and learn how to do readings too. And the readings were such like a bonus gift because that wasn't what I was there for. And I left so fascinated with learning how to do readings that I just kept on practicing. I became obsessed with it actually, because that's the kind of person that I was, where I would have this like intense drive to succeed. And so I ended up practicing as much as I could until the point that I felt like I did as much as I could on my own. So Linda shared my master bedroom closet light always comes on, has been doing for over 10 years. I believe it's my father. I say, hi, daddy, and it comes on again. My mother died 4 years ago and I forgot her and then said, hi, mama and daddy, and came on again 3 times in a row. That's amazing. I love that Because one of the things that I learned in my psychic development journey is to not be afraid. Like, approach it with curiosity. And I call it being the curious investigator. To be the curious investigator, to experiment with it and try to see what that energy is all about. Because it's not the to show up with the vibe that everything is there to harm you. It's the perspective of victimization, thinking that you can't help yourself. It's very disempowering. And so, in order for you to reclaim your power and come from the empowered perspective, is to know that you can handle anything that comes your way. And you also have many different options. So, if you come across something, you're fiddling with it, let's say with the light, you're like, oh, what the heck is this? And you go investigate your closet light, and you're like, I'm just here to check out what's going on with my closet light. And then the boogeyman pops out, you can always be like, screw this, close the closet and leave. Um, like, that's always an option. Like, if the boogeyman shows up, you don't have to stay there and be like, oh no, boogeyman, now you're going to get me. That's a silly analogy, but I hope you got it from there. So, what I really want people to know is that everyone is having psychic experiences, because it's natural. And if you're like me, where you were so disconnected from it, you can always strengthen it. So, I view psychic abilities as muscles. And if you don't use your muscle, then it gets really weak. And just like that, you can also exercise your muscles and regain strength. So it's kind of like, if you're like me, it was only 2019 that I really started psychic development. If you all of a sudden decide, like, hey, I want to rehab these muscles, you can. It's absolutely possible. And you could be like me someday, in your own way, of course. So, what I want to do is just share about the clair senses, and then we're going to jump into some readings. So I want to share the clair senses because I think a lot of people view psychic experiences as something that you have to be gifted, as something that only a select few people, or like a select group of people, have access to. But the truth is that we're all having these experiences. It's just that you don't know how to recognize them. So I'm going to go through the clair senses really quick and give you examples of how it may be showing up in your life. Hi, Araceli. Thanks so much for being here. So the first one is clairvoyance. And clairvoyance is clear seeing, it's clear visioning. And if you've ever dreamt, if you've ever daydreamed, if you've ever been in conversation with someone and then all of a sudden you remembered something as if it was a movie playing in your mind, that's clairvoyance. I know, because I was that person. I know that some people believe clairvoyance is like fortune telling, being able to see premonitions, but you can get symbols and visions for all kinds of things. Like, they don't always have to be like a future vision. It could just be a message like, take the other road today. So if you've ever imagined, daydreamed, dreamed, or recalled something visually, that is clairvoyance. Clairaudience is clear hearing. So if you've ever remembered a song or remembered a conversation that you had, or felt like a word popped up in your head, that is also clairaudience. And that is receiving the message audibly, but it's an inner sensing. So it's kind of, um, you're not physically hearing something, like it's not really there, but you're recalling the sound of it. And that's clairaudience. I used to recall songs all the time and conversations. Like, I used to laugh to myself in what may have appeared very randomly. Like I'd just start laughing to myself. And it was because I'd have this conversation, this funny conversation just like pop up in my head. And that is an example of clairaudience. So like if your mom told you to take out the chicken and defrost it, and you're playing video games and you forgot to do it, but then all of a sudden you just like remember mom telling you, defrost the chicken. That's clairaudience. It's not how the TV shows and the movies show psychics where it's like this magical theatrical experience. It's actually very subtle, and it's something that starts off small. Another clear sense is clear sensing, clairsentience, and it's feeling, and it's when you physically are feeling something within your body. I say physically, but it's not actually physically. Actually, yeah, it is physically. So maybe you feel like chills. A good one, a good example is when you feel chills and you feel like those chills are related to something. So that would be clairsentience. Clairsentience can also be when you feel the emotions of something, like those emotions are speaking to you, and that's what holds the message for you. There's also clairalience, which is when you smell it. And so, an example, and this comes up often as like memory recall because I think that's the most relatable for people. But when you smell that flower that reminds you of a family member, or you smell that flower that reminds you, or I'm sorry, smell the meal that reminds you of a particular experience, that is clairalience. And I know we all have smelled, we've all had that experience. Like, have you ever been so hungry and then you could just smell the aroma of something delicious cooking? And that's a great segue because the other one is clairgustance, and that's when you recall the taste. And for me, I have such a sweet tooth. Like I love my desserts. And so I think of when I think of like chocolate, and I remember how delicious that chocolate is. Um, or even I became vegan over the last couple years, and it's been tough because I mean, I'm 36 years old and I spent 32, 33 years of my life eating all the things. And so yeah, I do miss eating bacon sometimes, or I do miss eating fried chicken. Like I really do miss eating fried chicken because I love fried chicken. Um, so I could almost taste it in those moments that I'm like really missing having those things. And so that's an example of clairgustance. And then the last one is claircognizance, which is clear knowing. So this usually pops up when you have inspiration, or when you just like know things and you're like, I have no evidence to know this, but I just know something. That one feels a little more abstract because if you're anything like me, prior to me going through psychic development, I was always trying to rationalize and debunk what I was experiencing. And I used to watch John Edwards, crossing over with John Edwards when I was younger. Like if I was on a school break, summer break or something, and there's nothing to do, I would watch TV and it would be John Edwards. And I remember watching him and the way he would deliver his readings, I would always try to debunk, like, how does he know that? What if he's just saying like this really generic but really popular comment, and that's, it landed. And so I was always doing that. So with claircognizance, you're probably having this experience, but also doubting yourself whenever it happens, because we live in a collective that is science, that puts a lot of weight on science and the tangible. So that's what happens sometimes. So I'd love to hear, let me know in the comments if you've ever had any of these experiences, um, which I'm sure you have. And if you have had these experiences, what I really love to do is share how to have a conscious and intentional relationship with these. So if you're open to it, if you want to have that conscious, intentional relationship with your psychic abilities, then I invite you to my Psychic Play Circle this Saturday where we play with it and you'll learn how to do reading, you'll learn energetic hygiene, and it's really fun. That's the biggest thing for me, is that it felt so unattainable and scary because I grew up Catholic, I grew up Filipino, and when I finally learned how to do it, I felt so like people hid this from me. Like I felt robbed. That's how I felt. I felt robbed. Okay. So yeah, drop me something in the comments. Let me know if you've ever had any of those experiences, and then we're gonna get into some readings. I'm gonna have my cards help me out a bit, just to start off these readings, and then see how many I can get through. So Alexandra says, I usually ignore them, then later realize what happened, but a little of all deaf wish I could understand in the moment. Yes. Yeah, I would say that for sure it's an exercise in trust. And when you have, like, I find that the most helpful advice that I've leaned into is to slow down. And as someone that used to humble brag about being a multitasker, I know the challenge that how challenging that can feel when you are trying to slow down, because it's that mindfulness, like slowing down, being more mindful and being more aware of what's happening. So Alexandra, you're watching me from YouTube Live. So if you check out my YouTube videos, I have some videos actually in there. And if you want to check out the heart guidance meditation, that's a really good one to help you tap in and figure out what you're feeling. Lisa says, I've had experience when I'm thinking of someone and they call or drop by. Yes. And Linda is, I was washing dishes and heard, put on your shoes. So she put on her shoes, and 2 to 3 minutes later, a glass top fell to the floor and shattered on concrete floor. Wow. I love stories like that. And I think that's such a testament to your how you're trusting it and how open you are to receive the guidance. So that's amazing. So because I see some people joining me from Facebook, I just also want to let you guys know that I am no longer active in the Facebook group, that it's going to get archived. And for now, I'll be broadcasting onto my Facebook page. But soon enough, I've decided that I'm just going to ditch Facebook altogether, because managing multiple platforms is a ton of work. So if you... I just screwed up my cards. So... Okay, so if you are watching from Facebook, I would just recommend maybe even registering for the free event on Eventbrite so that you get the reminders, and then joining through YouTube or Twitch. Okay, so if you would like a reading, or if there's someone that you would like to connect with in spirit, take a deep breath in through the nose, hold it, and then exhale fully and completely out of your mouth. And then concentrate on your heart and allow your intention sit there in your heart. And when you are ready, drop me an emoji in the comments, and then I will read off of your emoji. So someone today at my office's wine and cheese event asked me if I could read palms. And I said, well, yeah, I could probably read your palms, but I wouldn't be reading it the way that a palm reader reads it, where they study the language of palm lines. I told her the way that I read energy, it's like everything is speaking to me. So someone could drop a bucket of toys on the floor, and then I could read the energy of that bucket of toys. And that's how I would read your palm. Like I would just look at your palm and then see what the energy wants to tell me. So now I always set the intention that whatever readings come through serve the person that the reading is coming through for, but also serve the collective. So know that whether I choose your emoji specifically or not, that there's still something there in the readings that are shared today. Hi, V. Thanks so much for being here. Okay. And then my other thing is if I choose your emoji to be read, I just ask that you share how it resonates with you after the reading. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump out of the comments now because it tends to distract me when I'm doing the reading. And then my lovely partner, Ira, is in the background, and she'll be throwing up your comments as you share them about the reading. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. And I will actually probably going to stare down or to the side so that I don't get distracted by anything that happens on the screen. So I'm going to start with Alexandra. Starting with Alexandra. There was this movie in the 90s called Mac and Me, and it was about this little alien, and the alien was like a Muppet, not a Muppet like Jim Henson Muppet, but it was a puppet doll that was in the movie. And that's the first thing I saw. So I feel like there's some cosmic energy here. I'm just going to start with a card. And I try to be transparent because I want psychic development to feel very accessible to everyone, because I want more people to tap into their own abilities. I am but one person, and I can't connect for everyone. So I want everyone to know that it's available to them. So I will share the card and also explain kind of like how I interpret it to give you an idea. So what I got for you is the Queen of Cups reversed. And sorry if it looks backwards because the video is mirrored, but just play along. So it's the Queen of Cups reversed, and cups, after studying tarot, I know cups has to do with emotions, and it also has to do with the subconscious. And just like water, because cups is about water, the element of water, just like water can be very like harmless if it's just a drop, but also feel very scary and overwhelming when it's the ocean. Now, because she's a mermaid, it tells me that whenever I think of mermaids are a symbol for me that, and this is a personal symbol, personal meaning for me, that represent the ability to navigate waters, to navigate currents, and to an expert navigation and adventure exploration. In particular, I think of Ariel from The Little Mermaid and how she loves to explore and how she likes to go into like sunken ships and find treasure. But it's what really sticks out to me is that there's this expert navigator able to maneuver through strong currents and is a very curious investigator. So when it comes to emotions, it's this kind of expert navigator of emotions. And that's really what the feminine energy represents, is a person that is emotionally attuned, is the nurturer. When you think about feminine energies, the nurturer, seeing the bigger picture, because the masculine energy is very like action oriented, detail oriented, very present and in the moment. But the feminine energy is about seeing bigger picture and being able to flow with how the energy is moving. So when I see this, I'll even point out that she's like topless. And to me, that feels like vulnerability. There are lots of women on this live stream. And up until it was like not until recently, I would never ever not wear a bra. I would never ever not ever wear a bra because um like I need to feel supported. like I am not a small chested woman, and so I need to feel supported with these big friends of mine. And so when I see this mermaid with no top, like no shell, no nothing, for me, I'm like, that feels like power and vulnerability all rolled into one. Like, she doesn't care. Probably don't care in the water anyways, but it doesn't matter to her because she's so certain of herself. So she holds the cup. She's a queen, and when I think of queens too, queens traditionally have this reputation of being the silent leader because they are influencing the king behind the scenes and influencing them through their emotions and their feelings, and really exercising their authority in that regard. So when it comes to this Queen of Cups reversed, whenever I see a card upside down or reversed, to me it speaks to either the energy is blocked. Yeah, it's the energy is blocked or resistant, and it gives me the impression that there's an opportunity for you to shift things so that you can bring the card upright. So what does this have to do with this Mac? And I'm going to look for this Mac picture, this movie, and I'm going to post it to my Instagram. So what does the Queen of Cups have to do with this alien? What I feel like this has to do with star seeds. So I don't know if you're familiar with what a star seed is, but a star seed is an interdimensional being that gets incarnated on Earth as a human being, and oftentimes because they don't have human composition, they're not familiar with human existence, they find they struggle with being human, like living this earth life, eating food, taking care of a body, which is interesting because a lot of people struggle with that, and they don't have to be a starseed. But I feel like it's the emotional part that feels the hardest. It's like what it feels like is why are people so mean to each other, and why are people so hard on themselves, and why is there so much darkness and pain in that regard? And I know that with certain star seeds that's really challenging because their communication is very different. It's a lot more direct, and it's not as nuanced as speaking English is, because with English you can have one word that has 5 different meanings depending on what culture you come from or even what neighborhood in California you're from, and that will determine how it's used. So our language is so nuanced. So as a star seed, you're used to being very direct in how you communicate what you're feeling, and that there's no hiding it. It's almost like there's so many options in communicating that it's like why do we complicate things, and why do we make things so hard? But that's part of the human experience because that's how we accelerate the experiment so that we can learn and draw more wisdom. So accelerate the experiment so that we can learn and draw more wisdom, create more wisdom, gather more wisdom. The experiment is life on earth. That's the experiment. And we have different factors like our emotions and death that help us create more experiments or lifetimes. So that's what I mean by the emotions are how we have more experiences. So it's kind of like this. Yeah, life is an experiment, and we have all these different variables. Christmas is rough. I'm starting to realize that I don't really like holidays. I like festivities, but I don't really like holidays. Okay, so what this is saying is that when it comes to like the dancing and swimming in the waters of emotions, allowing yourself to lean more into them. And I've made this connection, this realization within myself that nervous system regulation really is exactly how I teach psychic development, where it's kind of like, you have to find trust and safety with it before, and in small bits, before you can move forward with allowing more in your life. So when it comes to emotions, allowing yourself to really sit and slow down your pace so that you could really lean into and feel what these emotions are. And then when you feel like you have a grip on it, or if you feel like you understand it well enough to like then communicate it, then that's the moment that you share it. But it's mastery of your emotions that was your lesson in particular. Um, and I'm hearing like you are meant to be the queen. So you are meant to be this master of, I mean, I said master of your emotions is what you came into this lifetime for, because that's why we're human. But hearing specifically, like you are meant to be the queen, that not only do you master your emotions, but because of your mastery of your emotions, that you're able to really guide other people within theirs. I'm going to pull another card for you. This is funny to me because I pulled another card. It was the Knight of Cups. So it's the same suit. It all has to do with emotions. And this one is upright. So that means that this is kind of like where you're at right now. And the knights represent this intensity and fervor of energy. And so the knights are like, whatever the suit is, that they are chasing that and have so much intensity and fervor in it. So like I was just saying, developing your intuition, developing your psychic abilities is about pacing yourself and integrating like nervous system regulation with how much you take on and how much you explore before doing more. I feel like you are the knight. And so remember that it's just to pace yourself and take things slow. Like, know that there is beauty and you will get everything that you are meant to experience, even if you slow down your pace. And then they just show me the end. And so that was the end of the message. So thank you, Alexandra, for letting me read for you. If you don't mind sharing how that kind of meant for you, and if it's there in the comments, but Ira just needs to share it, then so be it. So I'm just going to disconnect from your energy and appreciate you being here. Okay, I am going to jump in and see who else. All right, so I'm gonna go, I guess I'm going in order. Linda Moore is next. I'm gonna go ahead and read for Linda. So if you are just joining and you are interested in getting a reading, all you have to do is think about your intention and then drop an emoji in the comments, and then I will get right with you. Okay, Linda. I'm going to pull 2 cards. Okay. I laughed because the first card is the Fool. So I know that the Fool represents kind of like that clean slate when you begin your journey. If you think about like, I used to work for a bank for a long time, and I used to hate the way that people talked. It was like so vanilla. But whenever there was someone new or someone without a ton of experience, they would always refer to them as being really green. And so it just reminds, like, the Fool is the very green person. And what comes to mind is actually like teenagers. Teenagers are so inexperienced, and I'm sorry, I still love you if there are any teenagers in the live stream. But they're so inexperienced, and they really don't know anything. And so when they go out into the world and they're just like so sure of themselves, but then they get knocked down because then reality hits and they're just like, oh shit, I really don't know anything. But I pulled the Fool card for you and it was reversed. So I'm feeling like I'm feeling like this card means that you are someone of more mature age, and that you really, I mean, like you show up in a world where you're like, I've been around for a while and I know lots of things. And I know I just kind of talked on about teenagers, about how they're young and they don't know anything. Um, but do we ever really know everything is what I'm trying to get at. Because it feels like you could have more grace for yourself if you were just a curious investigator. I like how that worked. So as I mentioned earlier, approaching things as a curious investigator. I feel like you are a curious investigator because of your story about the closet and the light. But I feel like there is so what I see is you having an argument with a man. This man is like a stockier man, and he's wearing a royal blue polo shirt, which I feel like he's kind of like the head of the household or like the protector, because I get Archangel Michael vibes out of him. And he has like brown hair. I see like a thick mustache. But it feels like you're arguing with this man, and then this is the particular situation where you can be the curious investigator. It feels like going into whatever this discussion is and just being open to hear what he has to say. I see a lot of arguing and like talking back and forth, and there's lots of interruption. So people end up getting really upset and feeling disrespected. And so it feels like allowing everyone to kind of speak their piece, like letting him have his turn and then you having your turn. But when you allow both parties to really to speak, or actually when you let him talk, um, it's just going to change the whole vibe of that discussion, because he's so caught up in feeling um, the word feeling feisty and feeling disrespected came up because of the interruptions. So then this other card came up, which is because I pulled 2 cards. This other card is the King of Wands. And so we talked about the queen archetype, and then the king archetype. Again, I mentioned a little bit about it, is more about the structure and the action oriented, like having a plan and like wanting to check off all the boxes on, check off all the items on the plan, and being the more analytical and being in the more present, like what's happening right now, is the kind of vibe that the king has. Because it's wands. Okay. Because it's wands, wands is associated with fire, and fire is associated with passion and intuition. And it has to do with like, I feel like a really strong buildup of energy, like using a lot of the energy, burning through the energy. So when I think about this discussion with the protector or head of household, it feels like you are very set in how you view whatever this topic is. Um, I almost feel like it's home improvements. And I'll say the reason why I feel like it's home improvements is because I feel like I'm seeing an outdoor, and then I'm seeing like, I see like what the outdoor looks like, and then I'm seeing wood beams being laid out. It almost feels like maybe if there's like a vacation home too, because it feels very woodsy, like very woodsy, cabin decor vibe or cabin architecture vibe, with how the beams look like actual logs, tree logs. But it feels like you are very clear on what you want, um, which is why I feel like there's this king vibe, because you're very, like the framework is set. You already have this whole plan made out for yourself. And for you, it feels like needing to share, like convey why that plan is important. And actually, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that what your plan is doesn't matter. It's just that he's not even to the point of understanding the plan, because he just wants to speak his piece. And because your plan, you're really in love with your plan and very passionate about it. That's why the fool is actually like that. That's why you're not willing to be. The king is the reason why you're not willing to be the fool. Now this looks backwards. Should be like this. Okay. It feels like this discussion with him is escalating. And so if you could allow the king to take a step back, because the king is not going to go anywhere. You just need to like let him take a break, take a bio break, and let the fool have time in the game. That would actually diffuse the energy. Okay. I feel like that's it. So I hope that helps. I'm really curious now to know what that means. Okay, so Linda, if you're still around, go ahead and share what that means for you. And then I'm going to move on to Lisa, because I think I could fit you in, Lisa. So Lisa, next time you show up in here, I'm going to bring you on and you're going to help me do the readings. I know Lisa because we've taken a class together. Oh, hobby farming. Okay, so she wrote, I'm planning on retiring in 4 months, starting a new venture with hobby farming, and I'm into home improvement and planning to build a house on the farm, and very set. So she's decided all that she wants and very set in her ways. Wow. So what's happening? Okay. You can go ahead and shoot up her comments as she adds them. But I'm going to go ahead and read Lisa. Ooh. Okay. So the first card is the 10 of Pentacles. And the 10 of Pentacles, so it looks really trippy and hypnotic. And I feel like when it shows up like this, where it's like really hypnotic, I feel like it's about really actually going into a state of trance and relaxing into what you're doing. 10 is about a new cycle, like a new elevated cycle. And Pentacles has to do with our physical consciousness. So a lot of people associate this with money, but it can also do with just like humaning and physical well-being. So the tree represents the tree of life, and it kind of looks like it's going through like an archway or like a doorway. So I feel like what this card means is that the abundance is there, but that you're trying to control the outcome too much. So it's pretty much like, the universe is responding to us and has all these different channels of which to send us energy, whether it be, money, whether it be food, whether it be whatever material goods that the universe wants to send you. And you're so attached to how that happens that you're actually closing off many of those channels and only giving the universe one option. The next card is the Ace of Wands, which also looks really trippy and hypnotic. And so the Ace of Wands is about like the start of a new project or the start of a new passion project. So I know I just said that next time you show up here, Lisa, I'm going to have you come up here and do readings with me. It feels like you have felt a calling to a passion project. And I'm not saying that like you have to do what I do, but it feels like you've had a calling to do something, and that there's like a constant urging of whatever this calling is. And I feel like it's nursing. Have you been wanting to go work in the medical field, or are you a nurse? But that you are not taking the aligned action on that urging, on that calling. And so it's, if everything is a range or a spectrum, if everything's a range or a spectrum, it's like, you are receiving this urging, this calling, and you're stuck. Like you're not doing anything with it. It's almost, okay, so here's how I'm going to explain it. So nervous system response: fight, flight, or freeze. Fight is when you are like always trying to defend yourself, always got to do something. Like whenever something happens, you're like hella responsive that way. Flight is something happens, you freak out and you're like, no, I can't do this. You run away. Freeze is when you're like, holy crap. And then that's it. Like you're stuck and you're frozen in the ground. You are, holy crap, I'm stuck and I'm frozen in the ground. And I feel you, because I feel this way like so often, where if I find myself leaning into something, trying to sit in the energy of something and really like connect with it, I find myself sometimes like getting stuck in analysis paralysis. And I don't think it's actually analysis paralysis for you. I mean, maybe it is, but what it feels like is just like being there and then like expecting something else to happen to like confirm what has already been confirmed in your knowing. So it's like you already know that you've got this urging, and then you're waiting for another sign to validate the sign that you got, is what it feels like. So it feels like to allow that abundance that is in the first card, when this urging comes back, you need to take action on it, is what it feels like. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. I hope that helps you. Please drop in the comments how that resonates. And I ask for you to Oh, thanks, Linda. That makes sense. I asked for you to share because I know there are tons of people that are really super scared about anything divination. And when you share how this experience connects for you, it shows other people how safe and accessible this can be. And it's like that's what could help someone um, take that leap and connect with it. So if you want to learn how to divinate, I'm just kidding. If you want to learn how to do a psychic reading, which is grounding, raising your vibration, creating coherence with your subject that you're reading, and then sharing the messages or having the awareness to notice, like, what is the message? Join me on Saturday morning in my psychic play circle, and you can go to my website under psychic development to register. So I'm going to go back into the comments. If you guys have any questions, I'll hang out and answer them. Lisa, no, you're the only Lisa. I'll stick around and answer them. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining me. I know, Ira, you don't have to throw it back up on the screen, but I want to read Linda's second half of her comment. The issues with relatives deciding on division of the land. The king may be my cousin who manages the land. I have been planning this for a year now. Well, that's really cool, Linda, if you do it. I hope you do. And I would love to see what your what is it that you Yes, building your house on the farm. Oh, I want to throw up Alexandra's one of her last comments. I don't know. Did you throw that up already? I'm like, I wasn't looking. Yes, it does resonate. I need to get my queen energy and leadership back, but I'm already doing all that was explained. I can read emotions well, nurture, etc. I'm actually working on a meditation for my program, A Gentle Awakening. The live program is wrapping up this weekend, but you can purchase the replay through my website. But I'm going to include a meditation in the program that's all about having like clarity around how you're perceived. And what it is it's my relationship review meditation. If you are on you can go to my YouTube and you can find my video about doing a relationship review. Because, and this relates like to very human experiences, because when I worked in banking, I attended a lot of leadership trainings, and a lot of them were on branding. And one of the things that one of the executives shared with me was that, and shared it with the group, was that you need to seek feedback. You need to seek feedback from your trusted advisors, because sometimes what you perceive is different from how other people perceive you. And I'm not trying to tell you that like you're wrong, but it always helps to get like take inventory on like, am I putting out what I think I'm putting out? So Lisa, this message resonates. I find myself waiting on a confirmation, what I already know and what keeps me stuck. Girl, all you got to do is start trusting yourself. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. If you enjoyed this, I'd love to see you at my next community readings for collective healing next month. I don't have a schedule out yet, but I will have one out before the end of the year. And have a happy holidays, even if I am not enjoying it. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Now I got a snack.